Good morning. We'll see about the SIPOC process in detail. Before getting into the topic, I would like to ask a few questions with you all. From the image, are you able to identify which process we're going to discuss today? Yeah, right. S means supplier, I is for input, P is for process, O is for output, and C is for customer. We're going to discuss about the supplier, input, process, outputs, and customer. How this gonna effectively implemented in a company for the improvement of company, and how the general steps are involved in the implementation process. These topics will be discussed in detail in today's seminar. SIPOC is a process that deals with the high-level process mapping, and it also helps to visualize the process and its influences. It is a useful tool that helps how a process serves the customer and shows the input and output of a process in a visual format. As already said, the acronym of SIPOC stands for Supplier, Input, Process, Output, and Customer. Let us see in detail about how to create a SIPOC in detail. Let's see. As already said, supplier, input, process, output, and customer. Here, let us take the coffee making process as a simple example for this concept. I want to make a coffee for 2 people. So I have to make a detailed analysis of the process of making a coffee. For making a coffee, we have to grind the coffee beans initially. Then we have to extract the coffee powder. Then we have to warm up the milk, and then we have to pour the milk, and then we have to mix the coffee grains and also the milk together. And if need excess milk needs, we have to pour the milk. If we want to add a sugar in between, then we have to add the sugar. These are the detailed process that we have to taken in consideration for making of the coffee. For making of this coffee, we have to give some input parameters. This is the process. For this satisfying this process, we have to give some input parameters. By having some input parameters, by following this process, we will get a desired output. Let's get into the next image. Here, the input parameters for the coffee is shown in detail, whereas the specific input parameters will get the desired output, and the customer is 2 people, as already said in the diagram. This is how the SIPOC process is done. For creating a SIPOC process, we have to identify the process. Identify the process for which SIPOC will be created. We have to identify a team, separate team for this identification process, and when we have to involve all of them in making this SIPOC diagram. Define the process steps. The process is a defined sequence of activities that usually add values to the inputs to produce customer required outputs. High-level process flow covers a maximum of 7 steps. And then we have to list down the outputs. Output are the products, service, and our informations. These are the various kind of outputs based on the input we given. It might be a product, or it might be a service, or it might be information. The output might vary on these 3 categories. This includes anything ranging from products, materials, or service which is delivered to the customer. We have to identify the customer. Customers are the users of the output produced by the process. Moreover, customers are not always outside the organization. They might also be internal stakeholders. Determine the inputs required for the process. Inputs define the material, service, and our information used to produce the outputs. An input plays a vital role as input variations impact the output. Input plays this vital role. If the input is not as the requirement for the output, then output will not be a desired output, will not get the desired output. So while giving the input, we have to think of the output and then we have to give the desired inputs. Identify the suppliers. For getting a very good input, we have to identify the desired suppliers. Suppliers provides the input for the process. Not only the external suppliers, in some cases, we'll also have some internal suppliers for getting the desired output. Then we have to validate the diagram. Once completed, share it with all relevant stakeholders and validate it before moving to the further process improvements. Let's get into an example. Another example is a chocolate factory, and the process is of chocolate manufacturing, and we have to give the detailed explanation for this process. First, for this chocolate manufacturing, we have to identify who supplies the process inputs, and for input, what inputs are required, and for the process, what are the critical steps in manufacturing of the chocolate. Then output, what are the process output, and who receives the outputs. These are to be considered before making of this SIPOC diagram. As said already, we have to identify the process. The process is chocolate manufacturing process. Define the process step by step. Input, good inspection, and then we have to melt out the chocolate block in warmers, and we have to add ingredients to the chocolate paste, and the temper verification need to be done. Chocolate line production and packing need to be processed correctly, and we have to know the output so that we'll make an effective or desired inputs for getting this effective output. The following are the inputs at the various stages: approved batches of chocolate blocks and ingredients, chocolate paste, chocolate chips, acceptable chocolate chips, and packaged chocolate chips. For this output, we have to identify the customers. Wholesalers and retailers are the customers of this chocolate outputs, which is made in the factory. These are the two customers that we have to focus on. For the wholesalers and retailers, there will be a separate customers. For us, the wholesalers and retailers are the main customers. Determine the inputs required for the process. The following are the inputs that required at various stages of operations: potato chips, raw chocolate blocks, coating ingredients, blocks, chocolate paste and ingredients, chocolate chips, properly tempered chocolate chips. The following are the suppliers, which is cocoa ingredients, which provides the inputs for the manufacturing units. For this entire image, the entire process, we have to validate with the relevant stakeholders within the organization and also outside of the organizations. If the desired system is correct, then we can implement this process and get an effective output or outcome. Thank you.